Confirm you've located. Sorry, text not. I'll confirm you've got him. Copy, well done. Well, that's why teamwork's so important. Texan has just driven up the road we've come down and bumped into him. So, we should have a view shortly. And how awesome is this? We are on our way to look at a leopard, and we're maybe 5 or 10 minutes into the drive, so not a bad start. And it just goes to show how a few minutes can mean missing an animal. And that's why it's great to work in teams and have other vehicles searching areas when you know there's potentially something around. Question through from Sherry. Morning, Sherry, and welcome. Sherry is interested to know how the leopards sneak under the electric fence. Well, the only time I've seen the one do it, there's a small riverbed that runs out of the camp, and obviously it's difficult to put the strands of fence right up to the base of that riverbed that will flow in the summer. So there was a small gap that she managed to sneak through, but I'm fairly certain they can just jump straight over it if they wanted to. Okay, so the leopard is somewhere on our right. The only way I know that is that all the guests' heads from the vehicle in front of us are poking down to the right. Well done there. So, a brief glimpse there of this male leopard. And now we need to do a little bit of off-roading in order to stay with him. All good, Vivian? It seems like Texan, who has been working on this property for many years, knew a better route than I did, and that just goes to show how spending long periods of time in these areas, you do get to know not only the animals, but also all the little shortcuts and open areas that help you when off-roading and following animals. seen him, Vim? So, apologies folks, we just need to be a little bit patient here. I'm sure in time we will get a better view of this animal. Now a lot of you may be concerned about the vegetation that we're driving over, but you don't need to be. People have been doing this for 50 years in the Sabi Sands, and it's still a perfectly sound ecosystem. Of course, there is some impact. I would be lying if I said we did not impact at all, but the impact is very minimal. And if people have been doing this for 50 years, if it was not sustainable and it was going to have a negative impact, we would surely notice it, which clearly you don't. And I guess how you could think of us as miniature elephants, we cause a lot less damage and destruction than elephants do. So that's something to bear in mind. Let's see if I can find another little route here, because our vehicles are a little bit more maneuverable than theirs. Just going to ask the tractor which way it went. Okay, so it takes in motion that I should drive out in this direction. Oh, there he is. I'm also here. He's in the block now, and we are west of the shortcut in front of the Gallagher rooms. That's where he headed north. I think Tex will be able to maybe give you better directions than me. It looks like he's playful this morning. We can expect him to carry on doing these little bounding trots. And some great camera work there, Vim, and you get an idea of how good their camouflage is when they are in thicker vegetation like this. I think so. So, there's a little bit of a gap there. Let me just see. Tex, have you still got visual of him? Okay, so we've just missed him. He's looped behind us. Oh, there he is. Okay. One. Well, we might be able to get a good view at least of his face. So hold on a second. Oi. Absolutely beautiful, and really good camera work again by Vian. Not easy when the animals are on the move, especially through thick vegetation like this. But wasn't that great? And I hope you enjoyed that view of what looks to be Kunyuma, the young male leopard we are expecting to find in this area. I fear that this may be the end of the road. It's just so thick with a specific tree called the black monkey orange, and they are not particularly follow animals through. It makes a very loud noise, and there's literally an impenetrable bank of them in front of us. So I think going to get out the way so this game drive vehicle can carry on with its business. Oh, I have just seen him again. Let me just see where he heads to. He could come towards us, but he does appear to be heading in the wrong direction. Tex, I'm going to move out. It's too thick here. But thank you very much.
All right.
Okay.
Try to make it wasteful.
So now I'm ready to get up my trusty little GPS and try and work out where exactly we are. It's always exciting, but again, difficult to keep in a bearing of your direction that you're moving in. So I've once or twice found myself getting lost. But thankfully, you often have a tracker that can guide you out of the situation without too much embarrassment. So he's been heading north and east predominantly, and like I said, we're not very far from a road. So what I'm going to do is is going to try and get onto that road and wait for him. Go ahead. We just lost him, but if you come along Buffles of Katlan, west of Mvubu, east of Mvubu, I'm going to stand by here and see if he doesn't pop out. Sorry, Obzats, Makulu, Latina. Well, what a good start to the morning. But what is important to bear in mind is how the quality of our sightings does fluctuate greatly depending on the day and on our luck. So, the likelihood of him popping out onto this road, I mean, there's a decent chance, but leopards can chop and change with their movements of direction. Sorry about this, just the Game Drive channel's a bit busy. Go ahead. But you still beat me to the road.
It's better I don't because you just trying to run away from me. Then I must just leave you alone.
Okay, Tex. Thanks very much. Have a good morning. So Texan just got a hold of me on the radio and he said, it's not fair. Your small, short vehicle, you can slither around through the bush like a snake. So, just a little bit of friendly banter and joking amongst us. And he is a wonderful man, Texan. Has been working here for many, many years and has a wealth of knowledge that thankfully we get to tap into. And his skill of finding animals and knowledge of the area certainly do help us, because without him and all of his knowledge, there would be a lot less interesting animals found, and we all share the sightings. There's actually another vehicle who was hoping to come and see this leopard, but as you saw, it was too thick, and that's just the luck of it. Sometimes you can just be 5 minutes away, but that's not close enough. Was that last night, Tex? Copy. Well, what a start it's been to the morning, and we're just going to take a few moments here to see if this leopard doesn't pop out, and we'll let Aubrey continue a little bit further ahead of us to make sure that area is covered, and we'll try and cover this section where we are currently situated. So, to all of the newcomers and to all the regulars, just a reminder, you can ask questions at any moment. And to do that, you would hashtag SafariLive on Twitter or send an email through to questions@wilder.tv. Then those questions come through. Nikki in the final control room will look through them and try and relay them through to me on the earpiece as we go. And a lot of questions do come through, so if yours doesn't get answered, apologies, but you can imagine there are many, many people sending the questions through, so it's just luck of the draw which ones get answered. Tex Aubrey's just behind me. I stayed quite close to where we came out of the block, and I've just continued now down in the same direction as you, but yeah, just moving slowly down the fire break. At least he was heading towards this very open area. I think we should make the most of the opportunity and give it about 5 minutes and see if he doesn't pop out. There's a very big open road that's actually been cleared to act as a fire break, and it's essential to have these fire break roads that run through the property because there are lightning strikes at this time of the year and also towards the end of winter or coming into summer, the first rains, and the fires here can wreak havoc. And obviously with a lot of camps and buildings, we need to have fire breaks in position. So this big open fire break road is going to aid in not only preventing fires from spreading through the reserve, but it also may aid us in getting a brief glimpse of this leopard one last time. Well done, Liam. They're called babblers, and I hope they continue to babble as they were as we arrived. Arrow-marked babblers. Pretty birds, but sadly, because they are quite secretive and like hopping around quite dense vegetation, copy orbs. Sorry, man. So those were arrow-marked babblers. And I do have a plan. Well, I did have a plan for this morning, and it was mainly for the ornithologists amongst the viewers. And there was a bird that I saw out in Arethusa the other day that is quite rare, and I feel that it may be missing on a lot of your bird lists. Now, for those of you who are new to SafariLive, it's important to understand it's not only the big cats and the high-profile animals that we'll look at, but the other animals. And that's the safari experience. You can't only rely on the main big animals, because sometimes you can't find them, and those are the times when you can start really enjoying the finer details and other animals that occur out here. So birding does form part of a big part of the safari experience, and when we do manage to get them sitting down, we do always try and show you. The tricky thing is they tend to flutter off very quickly. So lots of rattling sticklers, alarm calling. So I'm just going to reverse a bit. And a rattling stickler is a very small bird. That they often do make a racket, actually, these rattling sticklers, and but there seem to be 3 or 4 of them in this bush alarming, so I'm not sure whether it was for the leopard or another predator that they may have seen, but a very small bird. False alarm. Maybe you're right. And that is outside the Arathusa airstrip. Now, as I did mention earlier, there's an animal, or there was an animal, somewhere along this road that we don't get to see very often. And I'm hoping we're going to be able to find it now. I'm just checking my radio comms. Copy, perfect. Just keep me updated, thanks. So somewhere in this thick vegetation you can now see a beautiful big giraffe having his breakfast. And it's cold this morning. I'm putting my jacket back on. There's a cold wind in the air. When you're off-roading, it's actually surprising, not tiring, but you do get hot because of turning the wheel so often, I guess. I don't know. But I was cooking. I needed to take my jacket off, but now that the off-roading has stopped, it's time to put the jacket back on. Now you can hear a bird making a kind of rasping rattle call. This is my impersonation, that was terrible. But it's a very important bird call to know because it often signifies there being animals around, because that was the call of the oxpecker, which will probably be feeding on this giraffe. I'm just going to try and reposition. Now that we've let them get a little bit used to us, I'm hoping we're going to be able to find a gap here. Now, interestingly enough, I just need to make sure, but it looks like, yes, he is indeed feeding on a tamboti tree. And giraffe will be one of few animals to actually feed on this tree. It's got a milky latex, which is toxic. And I've actually noticed that when they do feed on tambotis, this is a young tamboti it's feeding on, they can often begin to salivate profusely. But he doesn't appear to be doing that yet. Now, the wood from the tambuti tree is also toxic, and if we were to use it for firewood, we would become sick. And not many animals will feed on the leaves. It's just giraffe and porcupine that feed on the roots and bark of the tambuti. I'm not sure if there's many other animals that will. So that milky latex, which is toxic, will keep most other animals at bay, but not the giraffe. As you can see, he's loving it. And you'll notice I've said it's a male. And this is easy to see now, just like in the human world, men tend to bald and women not so much. But you can see the top of those horn-like structures are bald. And that would have been from fighting with other males. The hairs will rub off on the top of those vestigial horns, whereas the females will have little tufts of black hair growing out of the top of those horn-like structures. So that's one of the better ways to be able to distinguish between male and female giraffe. I'm sadly not copying you very clearly, Nix, but we can try again a bit later, thank you. Either that or try to speak more slowly and clearly. Diane in Michigan, good morning. Diane in Michigan would like to know if this giraffe has a scar on the left side of its neck, and not that I've seen, and it is quite a commonplace for giraffes to have scars. So it can sometimes be misleading to use scars on the neck part of a giraffe to help identify them. But I think Diane is interested to know whether... Oh, there is a big scar there, apologies. It's massive. How could I have missed it? So it does indeed have a large scar on its neck, but from the angle where I'm positioned just ahead of VM, I can't get my binoculars onto it. So it's in a little gap that allows you to see the scar from the camera, but I can't see it from where I'm sitting here. However, looking at the monitor, I can see the scar, and it is looking very distinctive, Diane, so It could be a giraffe that you've seen in the past. I don't think I've necessarily seen this one. And there's an oxpecker sitting just above the scar. So that was the bird we heard calling earlier. And it's sitting there in the hope that it will find some tasty morsels to feed on the giraffe, and it certainly will. They are plagued by ectoparasites called ticks. And it's the oxpecker's role in this environment to feed on the ticks and therefore help the giraffe in getting rid of these parasites. And speaking of parasites, you can see one's obviously frustrating it because it started to scratch its head there. Marianne on Twitter would like to know what exactly causes those scars on their necks, and it could be a combination of fighting. They do have some very serious fights, and they swing their heads into one another at huge speeds, and I'm not sure if that could cause the scar. I think it's more of a a skin problem caused by parasites. And I'm just having a look in Brent's Animal Bible that he lent me this morning. It really is a wonderful book, to see if they do say anything about it in here, but I don't think it will. But it's not from an encounter with cats, that's for certain, that scar. And in all likelihood, there's some kind of a skin disease or from fights with other giraffe. Okay, let's see if we can get one last view of him. But I fear, I don't know. You also notice he's got a big scar on the right side of his neck as he's now turned around and is facing us from the other side. There it is. So not as big as the one on his left side. Oh, he's got a beautiful dark coat though. And what incredible animals they are, the giraffe. And the sun is trying to poke out behind some clouds, and potentially in half an hour or an hour or so we may have some sunlight coming through. I wonder what he's seen. Giraffe can, when they start staring intently, lead you to some interesting animals, but I don't think that is the case. We will monitor him, and it may simply be that. He's noticed something in the vegetation that he's not entirely certain of. And that could be because we're here and have got him on alert, but he does seem very relaxed just looking from him now. Maybe it's the tambuti, the milky latex of the tambuti, that's making him feel a bit funny. Now, Just got a question in from Marianne. Morning, Marianne. And Marianne is interested to know, look at how flexible that neck is. That is incredible. Sorry, Marianne. Marianne is interested to know, how would a pride of lion manage to take down a giraffe? And there is a pride of lion that we do see from time to time that have killed a giraffe. They are sadly not on our traversing area, though, so we cannot see them. But they did catch a giraffe, and it does happen with lion. I guess you know that a giraffe will get scared if a lot of lion are chasing it, and possibly when it's running away it could trip up, and or lions can jump up onto their back and bite into their spine and cause damage to their spine, thus paralyzing them. So there's very many different ways that lions will be able to bring them down, and it'll all vary greatly on the individual hunts. But what is important to understand is that it is dangerous for lion. So now you can see the giraffe has seen something, so we will reverse ever so slightly and show you what it's looking at. So it was just some Nyala crossing the road, and this is a young male, probably born around November or December 2013. But interesting there how the giraffe's body language did change dramatically. It was just antelope that it was looking at, but it could well have been a leopard or something else. So just to show you how they can see things and help us. But back to Marianne's question, yeah, many different ways that lion could bring down a giraffe, but it's a dangerous business, because if you receive a kick from a giraffe, you will know all about it. Or potentially you won't know anything about it, and it will be the end of your career. So, dangerous animals to hunt, but obviously if you do manage to bring one down, you don't have to worry about food for a few days. And depending on the pride of lion and the area that they live in, you may often find that lions will specialize in hunting certain animals or unique animals like giraffe or buffalo or even elephants in some rare cases. And can you believe that? Prides of lion hunting not baby elephants, sometimes adult elephants, and managing to bring them down. It's sadly never a quick death for the elephants, because it's very difficult for the lions to perform the coup de grace on such a big animal. And I'm not sure if I'd be able to watch that event unfold, because it would take hours for them to kill the elephant, but it does happen, and that is nature. In my time in the Sabi Sands, though, typically you haven't seen too many lions hunting giraffe, and the reason why they wouldn't specialize in hunting them is because there simply aren't very many here. There's not a lot of giraffe, and because of that, why would they specialize in hunting them? Please, can you have a delay after initially asking and then go with the question? Got a question through from Anna Marie. Good morning, Anna Marie, and how are you? I really would like to know whether I've ever seen giraffe fighting. And I have, not very many times though, never full-blown or very serious fights. So essentially the answer to that is no. Oh, look here, he's come to give himself a scratch. This is going to be awesome. So obviously not having hands that can reach your stomach mean that you have to sometimes get a little bit creative. And as you can see, he's got a kind of rhythmic dance move here that he's using, combined with bush willow that he's bent over, and this seems to be doing the trick. You could almost tell how much joy he's getting out of this little scratching session he's getting here. Much needed, and I guess it takes a while to find the perfect branch to bend over and scratch your stomach with. But no, sadly, I have not seen giraffes doing any serious fighting, and would really love to see it. It just goes to show, even though I've spent years and years in wilderness areas, I haven't seen certain things that people who have only come out on safari once in their life may have seen. So there are just so many different things you can see, and a lot of it depends on luck. So it appears that the tree decided to use as a stomach scratcher has been capsized or broken, and it therefore is no longer providing much resistance in order to help scratch his stomach. Let's see what his next plan is. Oh, he's not done with it. Oh, he's going in for another one. Gives you an idea how tough their hide is. If we were to drag ourselves over that same bush, we'd be covered in cuts and scratches. But it's a soothing scratch for the giraffe. We've just got a question through from Virginia in Kentucky. Good morning, Virginia. And still on the subject of fighting, Virginia's interested to know if these small horn-like structures known as ossicones, do they ever break off when they're fighting? And no, not that I've seen or heard of. They are very short, hard, bony structures that would be incredibly difficult to break, and I haven't heard of them breaking. I guess because they are very short, it would be more difficult for them to snap off. But there certainly is a chance that somewhere along the line, the giraffe has broken an ossicone, but I've never seen one.